Welcome back. We're on chapter 29 in the Apothecary, and the chapter is called the Kong Olaf, which is the name of the boat, if you remember from earlier chapters. And today's question is just, why is it always Jin Lo? I want you to think about that. What character traits does she have that makes it always her? And then also, what assumptions do people make about certain cultures or backgrounds that have them assign certain roles? And is that okay? So why is it always Jin Lo is my question. You can approach it millions of different ways. Sarah Pennington's butler had included a bundle of things to eat in the trunk. We found tinned salmon and crackers from Fortman's and Mason, bottles of apple cider, and a pack of playing cards. I thought I would enjoy having a butler to think of everything I might need, but then realized that my parents mostly did that. We sat among the empty luggage and played silent games of gin rummy as we waited for the Kong Olaf to get out of the endless Thames. As part of Benjamin returned, one at a time, I noticed the way his sandy eyebrows brushed up towards his forehead. It was part of what made him look so curious and intent, as if he was looking hard and slightly skeptical at the world. There were two freckles joined into one on the side of his nose. His fingernails were round and still clean from the bath, in spite of our running around the dockyards. He caught me looking at him over his cards. "What?" he whispered. "Nothing." "Do I have something on my face?" He brushed the back of his hand across his cheek. "No." "Am I all here?" "Yes," I said. "You're all..." "Shh," he said, and he looked to the door. People were talking outside, and Mr. Shishkin was one of them. We couldn't hear the exact words, but from the voices and the thumping of the wooden leg, it was clear that Shishkin had taken the cabin next door. I wondered that the others couldn't hear the anxiety in his voice. I could hear it through the door without even knowing what he was saying. The voices faded, and we went back to the cards. Eventually, the corridor grew quiet as people went to bed. Through the porthole, we could see the open sea. We were out of the Thames and motoring north. I had just been dealt a beautiful hand with 3 8s and a run of 4, and was waiting to go out. Benjamin frowned and moved his cards around in his hand, as if shifting them was going to change what they were. I felt a sudden giddy pleasure at doing something as ordinary with him as playing cards. Benjamin must have felt something of the same happiness, because he said, "I've got a hand like a foot," with his vowels flattened out like an American poker player, so it sounded like, "I've got a hand like a foot." I started to giggle as the fact that he was doing American impressions and at how funny he sounded doing it. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I love that the author gave me a hint of how to say that by spelling it phonetically. It's a great author's tool to do that. "Shh," he said. "You started it," I whispered. Then he held up his hand for silence. There was a faint movement out in the silent corridor. We both listened, alert and tense, but the sound was gone. A minute passed, and I dared to breathe again, but just as I did, the luggage cabin door flew open, and we were staring at Jin Lo over the cartoonishly wide barrel of a gun. When she saw who we were, she dropped the gun and glared at us. "Why you here?" I was too stunned to say anything. Benjamin managed to say, "To help you." "Apothecary say no." "But he needs us," Benjamin said. Even in the panic of the moment, I thought he was wise not to suggest that she needed us. "Is that a real gun?" I asked. "Flare," she said, "for signal." She shook her head as if disappointed with herself. "I know there is trouble. I go tell Apothecary." She turned. "Wait," I said. "The trouble isn't us. It's Shishkin." She turned and eyed us, then stayed and closed the door. Benjamin told her in a whisper what we knew about Mr. Shishkin, that he was acting as a saboteur, and that the Soviets had kidnapped his family and were forcing him to disable the boat in Russian waters so that they could quietly capture the Apothecary without attracting attention, and that we had promised Sergei we would try not to get his family killed. Jin Lo listened carefully, then said, "We throw him into sea." I do love how sensitive she is. and she vanished out the cabin door. "No, wait," Benjamin said. We scrambled out of the luggage bunk, over trunks and bags, but Jin Lo was already in Mr. Shishkin's cabin and had dragged him out of bed by the time we got there. He had taken off his wooden leg for the night, which gave her an advantage. But still, I was amazed at how strong she was. She twisted his arm behind his back in a way that looked painful, and he struggled to stay upright on one leg. She still had the flare gun, and she held it to his head. "You, boya yalon," she said. "I not know how say this in English, but you have no shame." "Shame?" he said, incredulous. "I risked my life for you, and you were careless. You were discovered." He couldn't see Jin Lo, who was twisting his arm behind his back, so he glared fiercely at Benjamin and me. "And my family will not be punished for it. I will not be punished for it." "And I will not go to Russian prison," Jin Lo said. "Then you shouldn't be interfering with their nuclear program," Shishkin said. "If I don't send a radio signal every 6 hours, they will know I am captured." "You think I am fool?" Jin Lo said, tightening the twist of his arm. "I know you signal them to come." Shishkin winced. "They'll come, whatever you do." The two of them stood, welded together, caught in a stalemate of contempt and fury. "Find rope," she finally said to us. "We tie him." Shishkin tried to struggle away, and Jin Lo looked ready to pull his arms out of the socket. Benjamin and I found a long cord in the luggage cabin, and Jin Lo thrust Shishkin up with the speed of a calf roping champion, leaving him immobilized and attached to his bunk. On her way out of the cabin, she picked up his wooden leg. Then she closed the door on him and marched us down the hall to the apothecary's cabin. The apothecary opened the door sleepily, wrapped in a dressing gown. His eyes looked naked without his spectacles, but then they grew wide. "Benjamin!" he said. We sat on the spare bunk and told him about Shishkin. Benjamin's father listened and shook his head. "You should have told me before." "Then you wouldn't have let Shishkin aboard," Benjamin said, "and they would have killed his family." "We could have abandoned the mission." "It's what you've been working on for years," Benjamin said. "I want to help you." We all sat in silence, listening to the rumble of the engines. The apothecary's spirit seemed low. "We have to tell Captain Norberg," he said. I wonder what the next decision will be. And I want you to think about it. Why is it always Jin Lo? She's really characterized as this very strong character, and she's very clever, and she's very capable. What do you think? What do you notice? Okay, look forward to your thoughts. Bye.